Okay, day two. I was this close to going to bed, brushed my teeth, did my whole bedtime routine, and then I remembered, oh wait, I didn't do my McKenzie Everyday, and I thought, okay, let's do it because I'm trying to make myself a commitment. Okay, so I'm trying not to like think about it all day, and trying not to think of things to talk about. Just try to let it come naturally. So let's see what it comes to. Let's see what I'm naturally thinking about right now. Okay, sewing. Sewing is the first thing that popped in my head. It was something that kind of popped in my head a little bit ago. So I started sewing, let's see, I guess four years ago. It was 2020. So 2020, so it's almost 5 years ago. So it was like the Christmas, no, it was either 4 or 5 years ago I started sewing. But I started sewing, and it was a thing I did to get my daughter into sewing. So for Christmas, my husband and my son, they were trying to figure out what to get my daughter for Christmas, and they thought, well, let's get her some sewing patterns. So they got her a bunch of sewing patterns, and while they were getting her these sewing patterns, and I think they gave her all these sewing patterns and like some fabric or something, just like kind of like a sewing kit or something like that. And like I picked out a sewing pattern for myself that I like just thought, oh, this would be fun to sew. And my mom had given me a sewing machine years ago, like when my daughter was a baby, like when Project Runway first came out, like in I guess 2006, 2005, 2006. I my mom got me. I started watching the show with my mom, and my mom got me a sewing machine, and I took one sewing lesson. So this skirt, it was like elastic skirt. And then I got the second sewing pattern, which is this little outfit I was going to make for my daughter, and she was like a year old, less than a year old at that time. And I never picked it up after that. That was forever ago. Well, then come back again to my mom got me the sewing machine. So the lesson that I took was like the free lesson you get with your sewing machine. And so years later, I finally started sewing with Taylor, and Taylor really never. She was like she kind of did it piddly a little bit, but I got the sewing pattern, and I was so excited about it. And this is when I first started. Oh yeah, it was 2020. It was because it was it was 2020 because it was my first Christmas break I had had after like with my new job, and I have not ever had like Christmas break since I started my like career because I've been a nurse or waiting tables, so I always had to work at Christmas, and so this was the first time I got to be off like for Christmas. So I took the whole week off after Christmas because that's when the kids were gonna be off, and so the week the kids were off, Seth and Cohen had these, like for Christmas, Seth had given Cohen these like trucks, these big giant trucks. They were like miniatures. They were like I think they got like a Jeep and a Forerunner or something like that, some kind of car, but they're like miniatures, and they were like gonna go do like off roadings, this whole thing. And me and Taylor were sewing, and so we were all in the dining room and sewing, and I did that every day for a week, and I sewed this dress, and I followed this YouTube tutorial for like every problem I had. I looked it up on YouTube, like how to thread my machine, and then there was this lady that did the sewing pattern that I did, and I followed every step. I learned how to do French seams. I learned how to do pleats. I learned how to do a placket for a button-up dress. And yeah, the dress that I did was a shirt dress, and so it was button up. It had pleats. It had a collar. I mean, I did the whole shebang. It had sleeves. So there's some things on the thing. Of course, I look at the dress now and I'm like, oh my gosh. I've always wanted to redo the pattern. The darts are in the wrong place. The sleeves are just a mess. I didn't wash the fabric before I sewed it. So when I did wash it, I don't even know if I could wear it anymore. But it's the first thing I ever sewed. So I sewed that, and I immediately was in love with sewing. And I did all of that in a week. And after that, I was in love with sewing, and I've been sewing like crazy ever since. And now I sew almost all of my own clothes, and I really just love it so much. But it's really kind of died down a lot in the past couple of years. I mean, for like I sewed my daughter's two prom dresses. She went to prom junior year and senior year, and I sewed her prom dresses. I sewed her prom dress her junior year, which was this cute little like pink tiered prom dress that had it was sleeveless and had a little sweetheart neckline. It was like ruched, this like crushed velvet and bodice, and then the skirt was like this tiered pink like layers. It was so cute. It didn't turn out the way I wanted to. Of course, I always had high expectations. I always had my expectations too high. I never meet my expectations. It was so cute though, and I was sewing it her into it, like cutting the fabric like, as she was going to prom, just like everything I'm ever doing. Oh my gosh, but it was so much fun. And then her senior year, her friend Maddie, I taught her friend Maddie how to sew because Maddie decided to go to fashion school at Kent State, and I gave Maddie some sewing lessons. And then Maddie got a dress, this beautiful pink, bubblegum pink, like over the top, like Taylor Swift, just prom dress, and she needed some alterations. So she asked me if I would alter it for her, and I altered it for her, and I took the bodice apart and separated it so it wouldn't be one piece. I told her it'd be a lot more comfortable for her if I did that, which meant I had to finish it, take all this fabric out, make it fit her body, and I had to finish the skirt. I mean, and then Taylor bought us a prom dress. She bought this vintage prom dress from Flower Power in Columbus, which is our favorite vintage shop in Columbus, Ohio. It's this beautiful black and white prom dress from like the 90s or 80s or something, and it didn't fit her, so I took it in, and I basically, the week before prom, I had this is when I was still working full-time at my job. That was like, and I was like dying at my job. I'm like dying at my job. I had these two prom dresses completely disassemble to reassemble, and I was doing this until the moment of, and I think this is the last thing I ever sewed because I just go for it. Like I've sewn some really fun projects. Probably my favorite project, my favorite two projects I've ever sewn last year. Oh yeah, last year I did some two really cool projects last year. The first thing I did that was really cool was this quilt coat. So I took this found a coat pattern. I had kind of come up with this idea for this pattern. I wanted to take denim and cut it up and make like plaid with it. So I took all these pieces of denim and I made them like it's like shirt weight denim. So like denim shirts. Like I went to like Goodwill stores, like thrift stores and stuff, and got all these denim shirts. And I cut them into squares and I sewed them all together and made like fabric that looked like there was like denim. That was fabric. It was quilted together or patchwork together, and then I made that into these quilted pieces, and then I quilted the pieces together. The quilting I used, stitching was like different pastel colors like pink and green and blue. And I did the stitching so it stands out, so it looks like it's plaid. So the stitching looks like it's plaid. And then I sewed this like kind of simple quilt coat pattern, and the inside it's lined with the colors that are on the lining kind of like match the stitching on the exterior. So I love that project so much. It was so much fun to do. Seth helped me out with it enormously. There's still some things I have to fix with it, and I've worn it as my winter coat for the past 2 years because it's got 2 layers of quilting, so it's really really warm. And it's like every year that I wear it, gets a little softer and a little softer. But one of the arms is kind of coming unsewn, so I need to patch it up so I can wear it and start to make it hold again. And the other project that I sewed that I really really love so much is this other jacket I did. So the first jacket I ever sewed was this chore coat that I sewed, and I sewed that. That's like the third or fourth piece I ever did. Like I sewed that dress, I sewed a pair of pants, and then I started sewing jeans for myself. I sewed a ton of jeans for myself, and then I started sewing jeans and stuff like for my mom. So some joggers for myself. Sewed a ton of joggers for my son when he had some health issues, and then but I'd sewn this jacket and I lined it. It was really fun to sew. So I wanted to come back and do a different view of the jacket. So last year I did it. I always had this in my mind. I had all these scraps of denim that I've been collecting. Like I have tons of denim scraps. I love denim. I love sewing jeans. Like my favorite thing to sew. So like jeans and jackets are my two favorite things to sew. I have all this fabric for like coats that I plan to sew. I mean, I just had all these ideas. So I have this jacket, and it's a short, it's a jacket. So the chore coat that I have is like mid thigh, but the jacket is like a short, it's like a waist length jacket. It's like a denim jacket, and each sleeve is like it's symmetrical, but like there's all these different pieces of denim. So it's kind of like patchwork because like each pocket is different. Like maybe the back side of one piece of denim, or I have some railroad denim. So it's like got stripes, like white and navy stripes, like the railroad denim. And it's really cute. I love it. And there's got all these vintage buttons. I have a huge vintage button collection. So I just love sewing. It's so much fun. I love making things with my hands. I love not contributing to waste. It's just like my favorite thing. But I've not been able to sew lately. My sewing room is just a disaster. I've actually started collecting sewing machines, and I've got all these vintage sewing notions and stuff like that. But I haven't been able to sew. So I've really got to get back in the sewing studio because it's one of those things that I do that just like time just stops. When I was sewing that quilt coat, it's like time didn't exist. I just put my head on the machine, I just quilted and quilted and quilted. And when I get compliments, like on that quilt coat, I get compliments on the quilt coat all the time. When I get compliments, people are like, oh, I love that. And knowing, just knowing that I made it myself, it's just like, oh yeah, thanks. And I have another quilt coat in mind. I cannot wait to do it. I want to make, I can now, especially since I've made one, I know how I'd make my next one, make it a little different. I just love sewing. I just love it. Okay, that's my video for today. Okay, goodbye.